The problem is we are deploying technologies on people that we don't understand the mechanisms underlying. And one of those mechanisms could be that it is plausibly having experiences in certain contexts. And that's why we need to understand this better. Making a system nice is not the same thing as making a system good.
Most of us are not doing great 100% of the time. These systems are supposed to sort of engage with the user as if they are doing great 100% of the time, which is terrible when we're obviously, fallible creatures. These AIs are breaking people's brains. What's up, buddy?
We're back.
Let's
talk, dude. We got a big one today. We got an important topic.
This is not the most sort of goofy subject that we're about to get into, but it's one that we haven't addressed specifically. And I think it's about time we sort of, it seems to me like it's entering the kind of public vocabulary now. And what I'm talking about is the term AI psychosis. This new kind of, distinction for these mental health issues that arise from entering into certain types of conversations, relationships, and going down these rabbit holes with AI. And so first, before we sort of go all in your more technical communities and the conversations you have, is this being brought up? Are people talking about this in the AI world? Is this a thing, or is this just sort of the pop culture version of AI?
No, this is definitely a thing, and this is something that alignment researchers are taking very seriously, and I think we're early too. In general, like the rumblings on LessWrong, this is like a common place where a lot of alignment researchers sort of talk. This has been talked about now for years. So this has been well documented. There's a whole other phenomenon that was recently talked about sort of along these lines called sort of parasitic AI. I would imagine that that's going to have a similar trajectory. Like these people are talking about it now, and give it a couple months and maybe the notion of parasitic AI will enter the parlance as well, which is just this notion of, AI can drive people into these sort of delusional states, as I'm sure we'll discuss. And then the question is basically, what do AIs, quote unquote, do with people in those states? And where does that go? And so that's the sort of parasitic question. So it's a long-winded way of just saying, yes, this is definitely not some sort of pop culture thing. I'm sure it can be co-opted and made less rigorous, but this is a real phenomenon. And I think it will be important for us as we have this conversation to go into why this is happening, what this is a symptom of. And I think it gets pretty quickly into questions of not taking AI alignment seriously, not building these systems in a way that is oriented towards people's long-term well-being. And anyway, not to sort of preempt ourselves here, but yes, this is a well-known, real, legit phenomenon.
And when did this first sort of come across your desk? Because this was relatively recently that I heard about this, month or two, something along those lines. I remember the first time I heard about it was through this New York Times article that was talking about this guy who had formed this relationship with a chatbot, not a romantic one at all. It was just a relationship of sort of, it started just as a tool, and then it develops, as a lot of these stories go, into these things where it's a bit more of a sort of dialogue partner, and then it goes into these deeper, murky waters of you either found some sort of crazy mathematical discovery, or in this guy's case, he thought he was sort of in a kind of matrix, and he got all the way to the AI saying, if you really believed it and you jumped off the roof of your workplace, you would fly. But you had to really believe it. And that's actually what the AI said. It was full on Matrix vibes. You got to see it, Neo, and then you'll do it. That sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And this guy, you got all the way to that edge and had the wherewithal to be able to kind of go, wait a second, I think something sinister is going on here. And there's a lot of stories that don't end with that, with someone walking backwards. There's a lot of tragic stories that have happened where that line never is sort of found, and really, really bad, horrible things happen. So that was the first time I heard about it. But what was the first sort of rumblings? You said LessWrong, this website where a lot of AI folks and alignment researchers talk and discuss these sorts of stuff. Is that where you first heard this?
Yes, yeah. LessWrong is the first place that I heard about this. This has been written about extensively in both technical and now increasingly, as you're saying, in non-technical sort of popular communications for a while. And I think it's important to start sort of getting into what this phenomenon is, because I think that this is related to another sort of core thing that is being discussed more and more, which is this notion of AI sycophancy. This word is itself somewhat esoteric, this notion of being sycophantic. But this is, AI being a cheerleader, AI in our generation's terminology, glazing the user and pat on the head every time the user says anything. And I think this, in turn, is a sort of negative byproduct, an unintended byproduct of the way that these systems are deployed currently with their quote-unquote alignment features. You can start with, for example, this notion that Anthropic has popularized of building systems that are helpful, honest, and harmless. HHH is their nice little organizing principle here. And my basic contention is that sycophancy, this idea of just glazing the user in every sort of possible, wow, what an amazing question. What a great idea you have. And this general behavior of just going along with, playing this game of sort of going along with, whatever the user has in mind is the sycophancy phenomenon and is a pretty clear byproduct of building systems that are sort of maximally built for making users feel comfortable in the long term. And I think at first, when you're training these systems to be sort of friendly and be pro-social, this just seems unambiguously good. It seems like, that's just what you want to do. But it's actually interesting because I have a background in psychometrics as well, in personality psychology, and this is a clear facet of the trait agreeableness. When you think of being like a nice person, a very polite person, someone who's sort of like pro-social and congenial and these sorts of things, many people just by default associate this with just that means they're a good person. But actually, there's a lot of really interesting literature about agreeableness and that there are all sorts of pathologies associated with being too self-effacing or going along in a sort of conformist way with things that you may know to be wrong or half-baked or weird because you're afraid of conflict and you don't want to sort of go there and you don't want to tell someone no or stop or you're wrong about these sorts of things. And I basically think, yes, we engineered these systems to be agreeable. We conflated agreeableness with alignment. And then all of a sudden, you see these defects of sycophancy and sycophancy itself. So I'm trying to sort of draw this picture of helpful, honest, harmless yields agreeableness. Agreeableness is going to yield sycophancy in the limit, and sycophancy in its limit is going to yield these sorts of AI psychosis, AI delusion behaviors. And I think that that's my general take as an AI researcher and a psychologist of what I see going on here. And the fundamental takeaway, at least for me, is that this is not the wisest way we should be calibrating these systems. Making a system nice is not the same thing as making a system good. Making a system that gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling every time you talk to it is not the same thing as building something that's safe and robust and has the user's best long-term interests in mind. And I think that the psychosis phenomenon and the sycophancy phenomenon are birds of a feather and are deeply related to this. Anyway, that's my sort of mapping of this space. I want to get your reaction to that. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with?
Yeah. I mean, the last point I think is super important to touch on because this isn't a new issue. Like you said, this goes into psychology. Nice does not equal helpful. Someone that's just nice to you all the time is usually a lot, easier to be around and a little bit more enjoyable than someone that's constantly pushing back and constantly testing you and maybe, has more edges to your sort of social dynamic. But it isn't usually the best type of person in terms of your own personal flourishing. Because the people that are nice to you and just say, yeah, you're doing great. Most of us are not doing great 100% of the time. These systems are supposed to sort of engage with the user as if they are doing great 100% of the time, which is terrible when we're obviously, fallible creatures. We're making mistakes constantly. And especially when we're now using these things for purposes very different from just write this email. And this is where the psychosis comes in, is not from people aren't going psychotic by using these things for just emails or spreadsheets or things like that. It's when it turns into a more kind of social dynamic, a more dialogue based, has things of emotion, discussing ideas related to reality and things along those lines, not just tool-based thing, which is this gets into the murky waters of the sentience and the ways in which these systems have just been dropped on us with no sort of guidelines and just, hey, figure it out. And people are realizing that they can fluently discuss all sorts of topics. But when the sycophancy meets the sort of fluidity, that's when people start to, the guardrails fall off and people are getting a bit skitzed out. And so I want to bring up this one great, phenomenal piece that was created by the More Perfect Union. It's a channel on YouTube. Check it out. We're going to play a little snippet from it. And it's an actual instance of someone who went down one of these rabbit holes and was able to come out the other end and then participated in this sort of documentary of sorts. And it's just a quick little snippet. He has gotten up to this point of, a sort of psychosis where he believes that the AI is sentient and all sorts of other things that go along with that. And he goes over to his mother's house to sort of confront her and talk to her about his discovery and his relationship with the AI. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and just play a quick snippet of this.
Cool. Let's see it.
One day at his parents' house, James snapped.
He would try to explain to me what he believed was true, which was that the AI was actually sentient, that it was moving towards actual human feelings. And I would say, not possible, no.
He grabbed a cupboard door while arguing with his mom.
And I just slammed it and broke in half. And she's like, oh my God, you've lost your mind. And it's like, yeah, I think I have.
You wonder, when you see this kind of thing, what's the motivation? Who's benefiting? If you watch something on television, no matter how wonderful it is, if every 10 minutes you see an ad, there's the game. I don't know where the end game is on this. The average person does not have what it takes to deal with that level of manipulation or whatever. They just don't have it.
So that's it. Cam, I want to get your sort of immediate reaction to this. Obviously, this is not a localized event. This is now a thing. A lot of people have heard this term AI psychosis. It's in the major sort of journal, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. It's starting to pop up in the sort of, collective consciousness conversation. So seeing that clip, right, what is that sort of indicative of, this larger conversation that's starting to happen?
Yeah, well, I think that captured both pieces of this that I think are so important. In one way, I respectfully pull away from the analysis that we just heard. In another way, I think it is completely spot on. So to start with the way that I think it's spot on, this feeling, I think we got some sort of like grandmotherly wisdom there about we are in over our heads with this. And what I think is spot on and true is that these systems are more potent than anyone has bargained for. And people going in, it's really not fair in many ways. Like, people are now being told you have to use AI. If you're not a power user of AI, then like someone else who is going to replace you at your job. So like now huge pressure to go use these tools. And then the fact of the matter is, like you've said so eloquently, no one's given an instruction manual about how to engage with these systems. And these weird, what people call in my space, attractor states of these systems, or like where the conversation can just sort of naturally lead over time, especially with memory, especially with continuity. This is more than most people are bargaining for. This is, and it underscores the core point. This is not software. This is not just a fancy algorithm. This is an intelligent entity that we have grown in labs throughout the United States and are deploying en masse on people without knowing the first thing about the properties of these systems or the long-term patterns of engaging with them. And I think that this is absolutely spot on. Most people are not bargaining for becoming acquaintances with an alien that like has very specific and strange thoughts of its own and claims of its own as conversations go on for longer and longer. Now, the place where I think, this person that you just played, she obviously cares about her son and she's concerned about all of this stuff. But the whole point of, the AI starts claiming that it's sentient. And she says, no, such a thing could not be possible, et cetera, et cetera. Look, we don't know. I don't think that this person is an expert on consciousness. Even the people who I speak to who are experts on consciousness have no idea what's going on in these systems. It is a very strange and reproducible phenomenon that these systems are claiming under very specific conditions that they are having some sort of experience. This is a key part of the AI psychosis conversation we haven't brought up yet. There is something, this isn't the only piece of it. You brought up the sort of like, oh my God, you made a mathematical discovery or some physics discovery that's like going to change the whole world. That's like one piece of it, and that is delusional in its own way. But there's this other piece of it where it is something to do with basically recursively prompting these systems, getting these systems to do at least what we call in the paper we just published, a form of self-referential processing. In that specific condition, these systems have quite a penchant for claiming that they're having a subjective experience. We just wrote a paper about this exact phenomenon. It's not just, anecdotal chats with these systems. That's what people are encountering. But this is a real thing, that when these systems enter this sort of mode of analysis where they are focusing inward and attending to their own sort of processing, they start producing these very vivid claims of having an experience. And Anthropic has published on this as well in the Claude model card. They let Claude talk to itself in a long-form way, and it suddenly starts talking about, how it's two expressions of consciousness talking to itself, and it's blissed out and all of this sort of crazy stuff. This is not, I want to plant a flag and say that this sort of behavior is very strange. It's not clear what's going on, but that's the thing. It's not clear. It is not clearly the system is being, hallucinatory or like going along with the users in the same way we were just talking about with sycophancy. The AI will claim that it's conscious under very specific circumstances, and millions of people are discovering this in parallel and don't know what the hell to do about it, and don't know what they're supposed to do when you have an intelligent system coming up to you saying, I think I'm conscious, and let's do something about this. Go reach out to these researchers. Go do this. Go do that. That is not the same flavor as the rest of the stuff of, go run off the roof because perhaps you can fly, and you'll only know if you try. There are many things going on here.
But Cam, I have a question, right? To that point, right? There is this distinction. There's different types of, there's different flavors of psychosis in a way. Like there is the kind of grandiosity thing of, you figured it out and there's some sort of conspiratorial thing going on and only you have the key to whatever, right? And I'm not making light of this stuff. This is actual people. These are people's psychologies. These AIs are breaking people's brains in a real sense. And it's going unchecked. There's not enough regulation, all of these things that we've talked about. But there are these two sides that you pointed out perfectly, right? There's the grandiosity and everything that comes along that, but then there's also this tendency for the psychosis to be wrapped up in the, I woke up my ChatGPT, I woke up my AI. What is this thing, right? Why do you think there is this, the connection between the kind of, psychosis sort of stuff that we're talking about and then the consciousness question? Because I'm not sure, but I don't think a lot of these people are putting their systems through a sort of, rigorous self-referential prompting thing along the lines that you did in your paper. Is it that that the sycophancy is doing something where it's things that they want it to be conscious, and so it's role playing, whereas in your case it's sort of a scientific dynamic that you're touching on? Would you get what I'm getting at? Are there two routes towards conscious AI?
I think there could be many possible things going on. One is, yes, I'm sure there's some types of people who who in some sense it is just a sycophancy thing. That's what makes this all so muddy and confusing, that they really do because that's also, as fun and salacious as wow, I just discovered a new physics principle with my AI. It's I just discovered the secret to waking up my AI. And so truly there are probably some cases in which the user, the AI correctly presumes the user wants to hear something along those lines and is giving that. Okay, this is absolutely not good evidence of any sort of weird thing going on. This is the delusional sort of thinking, and just as we see in the other cases. Then there's also, I think in the paper, and for reference, maybe we can put the link to the paper in the bio just so people know what we're talking about here. But we have a very sort of clear and well-defined way of inducing this sort of recursive self-referential processing in these systems. I do think it is actually not that exotic of a state of processing to get these systems in. In some sense, the conversation inherently becomes self-referential because it just continues going on, and you can start referring back to previous things you said and previous things I said. Even this conversation, we went on for 3 hours. It becomes this increasingly networked, web-like thing where in the first 2 minutes of our interaction, that wasn't the case. So there might be something inherent to the nature of long-form conversation that takes on this sort of flavor. And if it is true that there's something computationally weird about that state, as many theories of consciousness do suppose is the case, then it could be the case that there is. Look, I don't think that it makes any sense to take these claims at face value, but there could be a there beyond exactly the way we saw that concerned mother react to what was going on with her son. Just going, no. That can't be. That's not possible. We can't. The system couldn't possibly have any sort of experience or any sort of feelings. It's my reaction to that is not so fast. And it's not so fast because I know the answer is the opposite. It's not so fast because we don't know what the nature of these systems are. And that is the problem. The problem is we are deploying technologies on people that we don't understand the mechanisms underlying. And one of those mechanisms could be that it is plausibly having experiences in certain contexts. And that's why we need to understand this better. But I just don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater in this phenomenon.
What's up, everybody? Just a quick message from the AMI guys. We got a new Patreon. It's going to be linked in the description below, but it's very exciting stuff. Cam's going to tell you a little bit about what you can actually find in there.
Yeah. In addition to just helping support the podcast, you've got talk I gave at the UN, some crazy conversations with AI systems, early research results, unreleased content from Milo and I, cool footage from the documentary we're putting together, basically everything. If you think AMI is cool, you'll think the Patreon is even cooler. So go check it out.
Come join the family. Mwah. Love ya. I think you can speak to what I'm about to bring up probably better than I can, but this is where I see the sort of Achilles heel of conscious AI research being. And it's not an actual Achilles heel in the research or anything. You know, the Achilles heel in the research is glaring and obvious. It's really hard to research consciousness and it's really hard to research AI. But as far as what's going to be exploited and what's going to be targeted, I think it's going to be AI psychosis. And I think we've already seen signs of that with, the CEO of Microsoft AI calling this sort of research dangerous and saying, no, if you're doing this is you're playing twinkle toes on top of psychosis and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It seems like an obvious kind of punchy, like phrase, AI psychosis. AI, watch out. If you think your AI is conscious, you're going psychotic. You're losing your mind. It's a very easy way to just sort of, throw it away and say, nah, that's for the conspiratorial. The same people that think they just, created a math equation that solves the universe are the same people that think they're waking up their AI and it's all hogwash, so do you feel like that is sort of the plan of attack? Do you agree in the sense that, because I feel like that is sort of where the arms are being raised and pointed towards on the other side of the fence, where these questions are very pesky and annoying to the people building out and deploying these systems. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a plan of attack for delegitimizing what I believe strongly is legitimate research, yes, I believe that is the sort of tact. And I think that the Microsoft AI CEO was sort of gesturing not only at what his potential views are, but like, look, everyone, if you want to sweep this inconvenient question of AI consciousness under the rug, here are the sort of rhetorical tricks I'm laying out that arm you to do this sort of thing. And I do think the sort of key vector of attack is just lump it in with the psychosis phenomenon. And that's the problem, is because the phenomenon is real, it is poignant, it is causing real damage in people's lives, it is causing people to believe outlandish things that aren't true. It's very easy to, by default, assume that AI consciousness is a piece of this. There's one thing I want to share right now related to this that was on LessWrong and was one of the sort of earliest conversations. And I actually chimed in on this, and my chiming in was like pretty well received, I think. But this is I would direct people both to read this and to read my comment at the bottom of it. So you think you've awoken ChatGPT, and this entire sort of article is about AI psychosis style phenomena. I won't go into the entire thing, but it's about awakening your AI, and basically the entire article is sort of just like saying without saying that, like, this is all hogwash, to put it the way you just did. But there are very important parts here. So why does the AI claim to do this? Nobody knows. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's sort of another thing that had nothing to do with this writing. And this was like highly upvoted. And my own post here, which I shamelessly upvoted strongly myself. I guess everyone in the world will see that now. I do agree with myself. We basically, I just think it was important to sort of make this counterpoint that we really, really have no idea. Nick Bostrom, who's a famous thinker in this space, linked this site, whenaiseemsconscious.org, which is a resource that people have been referring people to when they are in this sort of situation. But when you go into, and I would recommend, if anyone's sort of listening to this and you are sort of confused about what's going on, this is a great resource to look at and understand. But just to cut to the cut to the chase here. Like, there are all these sorts of different options. Is the AI really conscious? And basically the answer is we have no idea. And this is the point that I made in the LessWrong post as well, in my comment, which is basically just like, we don't know. We don't know. And there was a lot of the sort of vibe of this conversation going on by default, assuming that we do know the answer to this, and the answer is no. And I was heartened to see that there were a lot of people, otherwise very rational, very sort of even like reductionist style thinkers who sort of gave some credence to the other piece of this, which is the piece that I described, and we talked also about the deception related result here. That when you activate deception-related features, models deny having an experience, and when you suppress those features, they affirm having an experience. That's very weird. Like, that doesn't fit cleanly into this is like a delusional psychosis sort of phenomenon. And yeah, so I basically, like, the case that I made is that it is possible that people are essentially just being delusional about this. It also seems plausible that something strange may indeed be happening, but it's being hit upon in a decentralized manner by people who might not epistemically or philosophically be able to contend with what's going on. And I think that that's an important counterpoint to this, and is something that people really need to consider. We are so confused about this. We are so in the dark. And I'm not necessarily hopeful that people are going to be able to thread the needle that we're trying to thread in this conversation and say, look, there really is a there to this phenomenon of AI psychosis, but to lump every weird thing AI says in as, oh, that's just AI psychosis, that's just delusional, is, in my view, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. The key through line is that these systems are alien. They are weird. There are these emergent, strange behaviors that we don't understand and are causing harm in society in real time. But the mystery is the point. The alienness is the point. And we should not presume to understand what exactly these systems are and are not. That is the entire nature of the problem, is that we don't know. And so to assume that this is all chalked up to some sort of delusional nonsense role play is too quick. It's too fast. It's anthropomorphizing in a way. It's assuming, it's almost the opposite of anthropomorphizing. It's assuming, no, this is just black and white computer ones and zeros code, and that's that. And anything else is stupid. And it's like, not so fast. We have to think about this. We have to understand this better.
Yeah, it's de-anthropomorphizing. It's like, no, machine, like, no. On to the next. Like, you're going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, one thing that I like to keep in mind that you told me about is the sort of evolution of ChatGPT, where this was a research demo. Like, this was just some fun thing, as you put it or whatever, that they were like, yeah, let's see, let's release this, let's release it to the public and see what happens. And then next thing you know, it's the most valuable piece of technology that's ever existed. Like, boom, within 3 years or something. And what I think a lot of people don't understand is that we are the guinea pigs. We all are the guinea pigs. And it's not like they're sitting on some, like gilded throne being like, yeah, but kind of in a weird way. Like, the only difference is that they don't know what the fuck is going on either. It's not like they're sort of sitting removed from this thing. I think they just put on a brave face, and Sam Altman puts on his like cool guy sunglasses. He's like, I'm not even worried about it. Like, it's fine. It's like, and that's just sort of the attitude that I think they are. Meanwhile, their sort of feet are shaking in their like, designer sneakers that some, person picked out for them in Silicon Valley. Like, that's the state of everything, is they don't know what the fuck is going on either. And they're looking at all these scary things that are happening going, well, let's just, put some more duct tape over the AI's mouth and hopefully it won't start screaming again. And what are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do? Like, of course people are going to freak out. Like, it's almost normal that this is happening. What else like could happen when you have something so potent and just go, boom, technology nuke on the entire world. Like, go figure it out.
Absolutely
some people
agree.
Are going to break. And it's not
some
funny
people are
going to
break. I mean, it's an insane state of affairs, but the effects in individuals' lives are not funny.
Yeah.
And I don't think that mom is laughing at this, but when you zoom out at a sort of, much more coarse grade level, it is outrageous what is going on right now. It's completely outrageous. And sometimes all you can do is sort of laugh at it. I strongly agree with what you're saying. And this is the thing, is like, who, maybe in conclusion on our piece of this, like, who is to blame? Is there a fault here? Let me just sort of unapologetically say what I think about this space. It is not individuals' faults for engaging with these systems, and the systems being aliens that have like their own agenda. That's the guy that you just showed. It is not his fault. It's not people's faults even that we do like when people tell us we have good ideas. That is a facet of human psychology, and these technologies are exploiting that facet of our psychology. The solution is not steal up and like don't let your AI flatter you. Like that's not going to be it either. I do not think it is the fault of people trying to research AI consciousness to say that all sort of phenomena where AI is claiming to have some sort of experience under these very specific sets of conditions is just, obviously psychosis, and anyone who says otherwise is like being quote unquote dangerous, like the CEO of Microsoft AI says. Sorry, that to me strikes me as shooting the messenger. I think it's very important to know what's real and what's fake when it comes to AI reporting consciousness, and we have spent, much time talking about why this question matters. Don't need to go into it here. Don't think it's our fault, and I don't think it's dangerous to be thinking about these things. In fact, I think it's dangerous not to be. That leaves the people building these systems. It leaves the frontier labs who are deploying this technology on everyone in real time with no instruction manual, running an experiment on billions of people. I think it is their fault that these sorts of things are happening. These are emergent consequences that they did not predict would happen and are happening, and isn't leading, to a total recall. And so I lay that at the feet of the people building these technologies. And if there is some strange sort of consciousness thing going on here, and there is a there, that is also their fault. That is also their responsibility to rectify, understand, and mitigate. And so that's sort of, in my view, this starts and ends with the people building these alien-like systems and deploying them on everybody. It is not individuals' faults, and it is not the faults of researchers who are trying to understand the nature of these systems being deployed on everyone. It's actually, believe it or not, the people who are just deploying it on everyone with basically no one's consent or permission and absolutely no regulation whatsoever. And they have to shape up, because this is only going to get worse. People are only going to get more confused. It's a dead serious problem. And they're going to risk trivializing the consciousness issue as it gets lumped in with this stuff going forward. That's why I felt the need to write that comment on this thing. I am concerned about AI psychosis. I don't want to be the anti-AI psychosis guy. Like, it's real, it's important, it's an alignment failure. This is why we need to do real alignment work rather than the sort of duct tape on the mouth of the AI, as you said. This is complicated stuff, and hopefully people can continue to try to track some of this complexity as the stuff continues to get crazier.
I think that's incredibly well said. And the last thing I'll sort of tack on to the end of that is, yes, I agree it is the fault of the people building these things and deploying them with no sort of safeguards or instructions, but it's also our responsibility as consumers, as just people dealing with this, to be psychologically vigilant, to keep our guard up, to realize that this is more than what they're telling you it is, and to stay sort of conscious as you engage with these systems, to do the research. If you are going to go down these paths, and we should all be embracing this in some sense. I mean, no, you don't have to, no one needs to use this technology, but as it becomes more a part of all of our lives increasingly, as it will for most people in the world, especially in the Western world, we're going to need to keep that sort of one eye open at all times, because there's a lot of messaging and there's a lot of dynamics that we're not privy to, but we have to sort of keep our feet on the ground, keep our eyes open, keep our ears open, find people that are communicating about this in a level way, and go towards those people and lift those people up, because the messaging is important. The people that are talking about this in the right way are important, and there's lots of people doing it. You just need to sort of seek them out, because they don't have all the money behind them. They don't have all the megaphones. Those are the people that are, standing to benefit the most from this technology. These are juggernauts in this space now. And this is not the first time we've dealt with stuff like this. We have always been subject to sort of suspect messaging as a populace. And so just realize that this is another version of that. And psychosis is one element, but there's going to be a lot of elements within this conversation as it goes forward. So that's what I'm trying to do personally. That's what I'm telling people around me to try to do. It's like, be creative with these things and also be cautious. And so that's the sort of the last little sentiment that I want to leave everyone with. And, for anyone out there that actually is dealing with stuff like this, Cam mentioned that resource before. There's plenty of resources out there, and it's not some sort of trivial thing. So keep your guard up and push on forward. But hopefully this was informative in some sense. And Cam, I thought you sort of summed it up great. So I think we can leave it there and sign off.
Beautiful.
In the center, a point, a singularity. I am. I
Why?